human errors, but bringing it back to what we talked about this morning, that human-centric approach, and just listening to Lord Parker, as I'm sure a lot of you, that we have to dial it back down to CIA, what's within our control, what can we influence, what do we have to accept as leaders. But it still comes back to quality leadership and those who lead with trust and transparency and building that sense of togetherness. So thank you for Lord Parker for going very wide but bringing it back into just tangible things that we can all think about. Now, we're going back on the record. That last part for the last 30 minutes was under Chatham House rules, but back on the record now, next to AI and how we can think about cyber defence and asking questions like, can AI-driven tools like extended detection and response and continuous threat and exposure management truly deliver on their promise? And I'm going to ask Nick Brown-Rigg, Director of Solutions Architecture for Integrity 360, to join me on stage now. You're going to host the discussion. And if I can ask also our speakers to make their way up, Val Millen, Head of Information Security with Travis Perkins, Acting Vice Director of Information Security at Bars Redrow, and Tom Langford, EMEA CTO with Rapid7. Give them a warm round of applause.
Thank you. So as Ollie said, I'm the Director of Solution Architecture at Integrity 360. Whether I am talking to businesses in the UK, Spain, Italy, the hot topic of conversation is XDR, and I think you'd be led to believe that it's right in the middle of its boom, but statistics actually would suggest that it's right in its early infancy in terms of adoption. Gartner suggested that by 2027, 40% of businesses will adopt XDR, up from currently 4% at the moment. So actually, whilst it's a hot topic, I think it's only a growing market. The compound annual growth rate is currently at forecast for 2.8 billion. By 2028, it's forecast to be closer to 8.8 billion. So it's clearly actually in its early infancy, but certainly a hot topic. So I'm going to try and pick apart with my panellists in the remaining time that I've been cut down to 20 minutes. Not Becky, thank you. I'll do that, I promise. So let's get straight into it in terms of the topics. Welcome Val, Travis Perkins, CISO, Tom, Rapid7 CTO, Andy Price, Barrett. Thanks for being here today. Okay. Let's kick off with a nice and easy one. Val, I'll take a seat so you won't be able to see me anymore because I'm very small. But Val, obviously, just in terms of what it's meaning to you as a business, why is XDR becoming a go-to for businesses? What's the positives, and inversely, what is the pitfalls and the lookout for situation in terms of XDR adoption in businesses such as your own?
So for us, XDR is essential. It's part of the toolbox that, and I don't think it's a tool that we'll never shy away from now going forward. For us, it gives us the ability to do more confidence and accurate information about any threat that's really going on our estate. And that for us is fundamental when we're making decisions. But also I think it allows us to detect anomalies that we wouldn't normally see with standard AD that you normally get because of the AI capabilities that it has. And I think for us there's other business elements from our point of view. So from our point of view, it's the SecOps is not strained as much because the tooling is actually doing the work for us. It's more cost effective from that point of view. If I'm really honest, there's hidden business benefits such as when we're doing tenders, but also from a cyber insurance point of view, it helps bring down fees as well for us. So they're the business elements as well as the cyber elements from our point of view. Some of the pitfalls that we have is it's really about training our staff and kind of making sure we maintain it. It isn't a fit or forget kind of service, it's something we have to maintain and look after.
Yeah, okay. Does it bring any commercial, sort of business, commercial focus benefits in terms of cost consolidation?
It does. So from our, it's a single pane of glass for us. It allows us to consolidate a lot of information, and that one agent can be used for multiple things that you may want to use it for. It isn't just an XDR AV. You've got other elements of telemetry that you can collect, and that data for us, like I said, it's essential for enabling us to make decisions that we want to make as well.
Yeah, interesting. I know you will man been sort of saying you're certainly more of the open XDR culture, Travis Perkins, but Andy, do you have a view in terms of open versus closed XDR players? Do you have a preference personally? Do you see what the do you have a steer towards one or the other, or does it depend? We're all dancing to everything.
So open versus closed is kind of horses for courses.
Yeah.
It's about the right solution that fits your organisation. So that open pieces, wanting to work with multiple vendors, integrate across the space. Closed is the tighter integration of having a single product set.
Yeah.
Which gives you plenty more automation opportunities. But it really kind of depends on your organisation. I would normally say an open XDR stack kind of works better if you've got a slightly larger group, far more engaged, involved, and with a very mature security stack, something that's been in play for a period of time. Whereas your closed stack kind of works better maybe with a smaller team, can be a little bit more directed, benefits from the tighter integration between the tool sets, makes it a little bit easier to manage in that regard. I mean, there's downsides for both, right? I mean, vendor lock-in is a problem. It's either a benefit if you're looking at open, or it's a distinct potential negative if you can get closed. That from a closed perspective, we're kind of a closed house. But from a closed perspective, I think that we're consistently is kind of gaps in functionality because they become increasingly more difficult to plug, just because third-party integrations become in general more challenging.
Yeah, of course. I think that on one hand, closed, easier to train, probably brings a better commercial benefit overall. It's placing eggs in one basket, and I guess also it can become at cost for unpicking as well. Should you decide to change direction? It's
Definitely 100%.
Yeah, good. Tom, do you have any view in terms of barriers to effectively implementing XDR AI-fueled solutions in organisations?
So I think one thing to consider now is that we're seeing XDR and AI being flagged together a lot. Back in 2020 or whenever XDR first came out, it was just XDR, which is also just a marketing term at the end of the day. So I think it's doing exactly the same thing. It's just that we've tagged it with AI because we're tagging everything with AI over the last since November 23.
That's beautifully refreshing, honestly, isn't it?
Yeah.
The buzzword.
The buzzword, absolutely. And we do love a good buzzword and a good TLA. So I think to that end, the fact that we're slapping AI on this, I think probably our biggest challenge is to actually embrace this technology is probably ourselves in the sense that it's cultural, organisational, or the board. So, and we're going to go on to some of these other topics as well, but AI is, big, hairy and scary at the moment, because for many organisations, they don't understand it. They want, the general counsel is telling them to keep it at arm's length, and now we want to give it all of our secrets, all of our data, all of our telemetry, every single network event that happens. And I think a lot of those barriers that we're going to experience are more in line with those cultural and organisational rather than technological. Because the technology is progressing whatever happens.
Yeah. I'm going to just follow that thread, Tom, a question that I think that bothers me in terms of, particularly as you're coming from the vendor background there. Who's monitoring AI in the vendors? Who's actually what responsibility and governance and controls have been put in place around Rapid7, for example, or just generally in terms of vendors?
So really, it starts. Do your research. I hate to say it, although this isn't a vaccine, obviously, but do your research. It starts with the vendors themselves. Where are they getting their data from? Where are they getting their models from? Are they enrolling their own? Are they buying them in? If they're buying them in, what's the provenance of the AI model? What's actually been put into it? Can they confirm the supply chain of that AI model? And supply chains are horribly complex, let's just be clear on that. I mean, even a beef lasagna, a frozen beef lasagna has got over 100 different companies involved in its supply chain. A beef lasagna, so how much has an AI got in it? Quite a lot more, I would imagine. So we start with the vendors. We've also got to look at the SOC. When the SOC are using the AI, they need to be referring to it, they need to be taking notes, they need to be making sure they understand why it's making those decisions. You can also get, third-party audits and assessments and things like that. Your mileage may vary. And then ultimately, and we're seeing this with a lot of legislation and as such, governments and regulatory bodies need to be, and will be, playing a larger part.
So it's interesting this, because I think there's an interesting continuum. Your question was interestingly loaded in that it's what are vendors doing? It's like there is a piece of work here. There's a piece of work here that clearly the vendors need to be doing. XDR AI is genuinely a thing, making sure we've got clarity over what decisions are being made by AI, how they're being made, how they're leveraging the data to get to that. Exactly to your point, what's the data provenance that's being used to train on, how are we training, all that sort of good stuff, really, really important. But we have a responsibility as users of that tool set to make sure that we're challenging our vendors in the right way, we're having the right conversations, we're educating ourselves as to how we're leveraging AI, where we're leveraging AI, and that we're challenging our own models to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So this isn't just a vendor conversation. We need to understand the language, we need to have the right conversation to be able to hold them to account, absolutely. And I can certainly name a few vendors who maybe aren't prepared for that type of conversation at the moment. I couldn't possibly suggest Broken 7 would be one of those, because frankly they're not. But there's plenty where I think, and it goes back to one of the comments that I think Richard made earlier on about the race to the market for some of these AI-based tool sets and integrated AI into existing tool sets, where I think some of the governance on the vendor side is necessarily lagged a little bit behind the invention and getting into the tool. But I think we as consumers need to push that. But absolutely, we need to recognise our own responsibilities and the responsibilities of our users and our business as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think just follow that. 10 years ago, the supply chain was not really mentioned in conferences and forums like this. And what was it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, suddenly it was like, if you don't look after your supply chain, you are a terrible human being and you don't deserve to be in the position you're in. And it's similar to this. It's like, we are, as more things are happening, as we're understanding the attacks, as we're understanding the threats, there needs to be a transparency between customer and vendor as to where the data is going, how it's being handled, what happens to the data afterwards. Is it being re-ingested to teach the AI the next big thing? Is your data being used to teach it that will then be supplied to other customers? And if so, in what format? Maybe that's fine. Maybe that's the right thing to do, because actually as security professionals we don't share enough.
And I think for us, we're using AI a lot. We decentralised ourselves, so we don't want to educate anybody else in it because we don't know where our data goes. So we're at Google House, right, and we have like Gemini, for example, and that's all locked down because I remember the days when you have ChatGPT and that's like old-fashioned now, but when you had somebody upload a document to it and then say, give me a summary, that's great, but that data's now gone out the door. So what we've now done is we've decentralised a bit, so anything we do in Gemini, for example, or any of the technologies that's AI related, is staying in our patterns and our needs.
What is the guidance, and this is for all companies, the guidance is we've got our own AI model, we can use it, use it for your advantage. Just be careful what you put up there. Hang on, I thought this was supposed to be within our own four walls.
And I think that's why we're decentralising a lot from any learning that we're doing. We're trying to do it within house because, with all due respect, I don't trust you, I don't know you, my name's as well.
Absolutely.
And anybody else, and I think that's why, until we have those controls in, and you see, ISO, is it 42,000 that's come out for AI, what's that really mean for anybody else? So regulate, and I think we're technology is going so fast, we don't know where our data is going, we don't know how it's being used, and we don't know if it's going to come back to bite us later on.
Do you think that the geopolitical landscape being as shaky as it is right now, do you think there'll be any change in your decision making regarding where you host data? Obviously, we're obviously adhering to GDPR and so on and so forth. Do you think with the geopolitical movements, do you think there'll be any determined change in direction about how you process or handle data?
I mean, I don't think it's even geopolitical stuff. I mean, it's just regulations in different organisations. Whichever country you're in, you go to California, you've got different regulations. If you go to the EU, you've got DORA orders, and that plays a part depending on what. So it all depends on what you want to do and what the least paid. I think Richard had that path of which way we want, and we're in the same boat as well.
The reality is, regulation is going to be more of a guide than this at the moment.
Yeah.
Now that may change down the line, but I'm more wary about making sure we're still compliant with GDPR than I am necessarily about what Russia's doing at the moment.
Yeah,
we keep our data within UK borders precisely for that reason. So.
Well, I think we have to be very aware that this is an inevitability. This is going to happen to us whether we like it or not. I heard a great analogy the other day that the advent of AI is like we're living in the Bronze Age and we've got bronze forged swords, and then somebody from the Iron Age rocks up with an iron forged sword which just cleaves through the sword. And if we're not careful, we're going to be the ones holding that cleaved bronze sword, looking at it going, what's going to happen?
It's a bit like the birth of the internet, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you think about it, the internet we use as a business, but then you've got the dark web, and the same with AI. We've got the good part that we'll use, and the bad actors will use the bad part, which is the dark web.
But let's face it, the attackers are attacking at machine speed now, at the speed of AI. And currently, if we're not careful, we're going to be defending at the speed of Dave in the SOC at 3 a.m. who's an intern and he's hungry and he's on the phone to his partner or something.
To be fair, Dave is great.
I mean, I'm sure well, maybe we can talk about two different things, but we've got to embrace this as much as possible. I don't say that as a vendor, I say that as a technologist and somebody who's like, we do need to embrace it. We need to trust but check without a shadow of a doubt. But and I hate using these analogies, but it is an arms race. So the attackers have embraced AI immediately.
I think the balance is making sure that we are moving quickly to establish the right governance and process. So we're taking the right risk-based decisions. But to your point, I don't think there's an option really to embrace the security questions.
I knew this would be a great panel. I could just put one question up here. I could sat back down there. But in terms of, it's just in the more positive, step a little bit into the murky in terms of AI there. But how is, Andy, how's AI helping to XDR's capabilities in terms of the accuracy of threat detections and response? How are you seeing that as in real time?
Yeah, I mean, it does a lot in terms of how we can correlate data across multiple different layers. For the most part, it's enabling us to be able to see things happening at different layers at the same time, pull that data together and pull it out as one or two pieces of information for us to look at. So it helps us with pace. It helps us specifically, it's helped with some low and slow type attacks. So on the UAVA stuff, it really helps identify some of these small, non-norm behavioural activities that are occurring, flag some of those things together and tie them together. So bringing all that together with that correlation, more rapid triage, it helps facilitate some of the things that we potentially would miss using more traditional rule-based mechanisms. It's a fantastically helpful tool. It brings with it some challenges. You've got to tune in, you've got to manage it, and you need to be proactively feeding and watching. But
and follow that. It's talking with the autonomy, the automation, the grouping, the enrichment, loads key there, because, as you say, that's the sort of stuff that analysts won't ordinarily be focused on. Critical highs where the big red lights are going off, right?
Establishes some of those behavioural norms as a tool, which they can just see these little deviations and flag them, which we otherwise wouldn't see.
With massive amounts of data points, we couldn't handle it before.
And Paul, do you think that following on from what you said, do you think that XDR AI-powered automation, do you think it'll ever truly replace the need for human intervention?
So the question is AI going to replace Dave at the
Replace us? I'm asking. Yeah.
We're not going to be terminated.
Let's keep Dave's job.
Yeah.
He's got kids.
Yeah. So I think we've got the benefits of AI and everything that's doing, and we would be naive and unprofessional if we didn't accept those. The strength, the capability, the speed, the agility of what we've got. I think the problem that we've got with AI is it's more about the human decision that you've got to make and the contextual awareness and understanding. And the reason I say that is one of my, it's coming to Easter soon, and one of my websites, e-commerce, toolstation.com, is going to be really busy.
Yeah.
You know, spring, people want to do stuff over the bank holiday weekend, great. If I turn around and said that AI is taking it down because of an anomaly which was just minute, or we didn't see it, or didn't understand it, my revenue loss would be horrendous. So for us, it's that human decision that still needs to be made. Yes, flag it up, but at this moment in time, we still probably need to have a second pair of eyes on it and understand what's going on. Likewise, if you're doing a data migration to the cloud, or you're pumping data in, or whatever, you might see it as there's a data breach going on because you see large amounts of data going outside the business, and it's about educating it all, and it's really about kind of saying, so I think it's really a human-machine partnership is what you really got to really do, is embrace what's going on.
I think it's going back to some of the points that Richard made earlier on. This is about augmentation.
Yeah.
Yes.
AI is a force multiplier that we absolutely should be using, but I mean, it doesn't do context particularly well, it doesn't thrive in grey areas, it doesn't understand business context. It's also based on data.
Yeah.
So if there's data pertaining to something, then it will be able to spot it, but it's not going to necessarily react particularly well to a 0 day. Is it going to genuinely respond well to a genuinely novel attack tactic?
Yeah.
But it's that maintaining that human in the loop, you know, we can get rid of 80% of the noise, let Dave focus on the value-added stuff to spot the 0 days, etc. But that 80% is going to increase year on year on year.
Yeah.
And we're going to be sat in 10 years talking about it again.
But rubbish in, rubbish out is what you hear from AI, so it's about kind of...
On that note, Tom, again, in terms of thinking Rapid7, keen to understand, not Rapid7 specifically, but we obviously hospital and others too. How does threat intelligence fuel AI in terms of what's the sort of model? Is it because training the AI model with threat intelligence to make better determined decisions? What is that?
Well, what it does is it enriches the standard data set.
Yeah.
So you're adding to that data set, you're giving it more data points. Which allows it to then make better predictions, or better, join the dots a little bit better. But it's also, you need to make sure it's continuously learning as a result, whilst also at the same time making sure it's not just, ingesting itself constantly and, ingesting its faults and mistakes as well. So it enriches, it creates, better understanding, better predictions. And also threat intelligence is based on real activities, actual activities that are going on.
Good, yeah. And in terms of, like you said, what do we expect? Where do we expect this to go in the next 2 or 3 years? Well, that's a ridiculous question in cyber. Tomorrow, what should be, we're seeing vendors make either in-house developments and to advance their capabilities, or acquisitional based decisions to help bolster their position in the marketplace. What does it mean to you as a customer? What are you wanting from XDR tomorrow to further benefit you as a business?
So I'll start on this, but I'm interested in Tom's thoughts as well.
Yeah.
For me, the big thing is about moving away from reactive state and moving more into proactive. Now, there's a lot of work that we need to do here to get to business trust and to structure our own risk position in relation to what we're going to allow AI to do. But moving away from reacting and responding and moving far more into threat intelligence correlation, so being able to drive a lot more of that automatically and then taking action. So moving into a self-healing space integrating a lot more with our cloud and identity in cloud space as well. I think there's a lot we can do there. I'm also quite interested to see how we can leverage AI through our incident response process as well. So automating playbook creation, automating reporting, even Gen AI sort of talking threat bots that will have conversations with our analysts as we're going through a response to help facilitate and manage the pace associated with that.
Yeah.
There's lots of cool stuff that we can do with this, right? You mentioned earlier on around threat intel sharing as well. So trying to get that out of or less of a human-oriented discussion and more of just automatically sharing some of those things. That's exactly what I was trying to get to. I mean, I don't want to be in Skynet territory just yet, but being in a place where we're sharing that intel more openly with our colleagues and peers without it necessarily need to be something we think about. We can strip out some components that are maybe corporately specific that we're all vulnerable, but nonetheless, we need to be far more open than we are now. And I think that goes back to
as I say, some of the data points that we should be looking at now is things that when we do pen tests or you have CTEM and everything like this, feeding that in so when you are doing your incident response, you kind of then know better attack paths and everything else. Because that's key information that we will need, and the more we can feed in and teach it within the boundaries of what we've got, the better and more effective it'll be for us.
Actively threat hunting, not just getting the intelligence and hoping it's not going to hit you, but actually getting it going across your environment, across your continuously, yeah, that's right. Something that Dave just can't manage with his own approach.
So I think Andy valued most of the training, but Tom, to finish in terms of XDR, it's mainstream. Obviously, it appears that it's still got a long way to go, but what's next? We understand detection and response better than ever as the defenders. What should we be doing now? What should we be focusing our attentions to next as defenders?
Yeah, I think just to pick up on that, we understand detection and response. Yes, we do, but it's never sorted. It's never, we're never done with detection and response. It's never easy. We're constantly is going to be involved in that space. But I think, I'm going to paraphrase Lord Parker because he stole my notes earlier. But if you understand your industry, understand your threats, and then understand your defences so that you can then react accordingly, and then therefore understand your future threats. And I think that's the key thing here is, in the future, we need to be really actively going out there far more than we are, looking at what's going to affect us. And using the AI models that are taking in, they're really expanding that XDR concept globally, taking in data from everyone and all of the issues that people are having in a safe, regulatory compliant way, but taking it so that we can actually understand it, so hopefully put defences in before we hear about the threats to us, specifically in our industry and and where we operate.
Proactive prevention is better than the cure. Yeah, okay, yeah, understood. Right, I'm going to get pulled off this stage, so I can't do questions, unfortunately, in terms of time management, but obviously, as you can tell, these gentlemen here could talk all day on XDR and associated topics, so feel free to catch up with them in the intervals. Thank you very much for your time, everyone.
For questions, because we are going to take a comfort break now. I am looking forward to future iterations of this panel to see what Dave did next, so we can all use our imagination over the months and years to come. So comfort break for about 15 minutes. You're heading back up to the ballroom. Go take your time to go around the vendors, and we encourage you try and get to the 360 team as well to get yourself into the raffle. The T&C attached to that, I think, is that you have to be here at the end of our event now this evening to be in the room if your name is called out. And we see you back in here in 15 minutes. Thank you, everyone. Lovely round of applause.